A very warm welcome to you. My name is GUGU THUSI, and I'm your pilot today on Galaxy Prime. Allow me, with my Galaxy Universal Network delegation, we'll drive through, or we'll rather land through Africa and to the uttermost parts of the world with our current affairs. Allow me to take you through today's current affair with our political analyst, Matlala, who will be helping us to deliberate on the matters of politics. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Matlala.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, and good evening to your viewers.
Now, today we saw a headline, a very interesting one. Judge Raymond Zondo summoning the former president, Mr. Jacob Zuma, to come and appear before the Zondo Commission. After so many attempts of getting him to come and appear before the commission to narrate his side of the story, obviously him being involved or being at the center stage of these allegations, obviously involving the Gupta family and other matters involved. We heard Mr. Jacob Zuma saying that he could not appear before the Zondo Commission because he was focusing on the arms deal corruption case, and it was held then after. But this time around, Judge Zondo seems to be adamant that Mr. Jacob Zuma must appear before the commission. What's your take on this matter, sir?
Gugu, I think firstly we need to note that the Zondo Commission, as we know, with the State Capture Commission, is as a result of the state of capture report by the former or previous public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela.
Yes, sir.
This report fingered the former president, President Jacob Zuma, to be at the center of a network that was aimed at, using state machinery, apparatus, and institution to further narrow self-interest. As such, Jacob Zuma is at the center of the allegations that are made against this very few individual capturing the state. Yes. Therefore, Jacob Zuma's version of events is very vital for the commission to carry its own work. You must remember that the former president did appear last year at the commission. I think it was sometime around July. He was supposed to spend 5 days, giving testimony at the commission, but he never completed those 5 days. I think on the third day he indicated that he can't continue anymore. The excuse then that was utilized was that the former president was being targeted and given information that, was being presented with information that he has never encountered before. From there, the former president indicated that, many things, that he would have to juggle preparing for his criminal trial. His health issues came up. And the Deputy Chief Justice has been very patient, not only with the former president, but with most of the people that have appeared at the commission. I think noting that the commission has dragged on for too long, and that he has attempted by all means to be very cordial in his engagements with the people that are supposed to appear before the commission. He has run out of patience.
That's true.
And he has indicated that he will, if needs be, subpoena the former president, Jacob Zuma. And why do I believe that this was necessitated? If you remember very well, a few months ago, about 2 or 3 months ago, the State of Capture Commission terms of references were altered. Okay. Meaning that the information or the testimonies that are given at the State Capture Commission could now be utilized by law enforcement agencies to actually build cases to prosecute people. Yeah. That is one of the things that will make it very difficult for the former president to appear, because whatever he says might implicate him criminally. But, I think being cognizant of that, and the fact that the former president is unlikely to cooperate, because remember, at the end of the day, the commission covers many aspects, many individuals, but at the end of the day, this commission was actually established because Jacob Zuma, it is believed and alleged that the former president Jacob Zuma uses state authority and state machinery to facilitate public resources for his few friends. Therefore, I think it was expected that the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will at some point run out of patience and will likely subpoena the former president, and not only him, but other people who might prove elusive to come appear before the commission.
Mr. Matlala, just to pick your brain on the matter again, we've seen quite a number of testimonies pointing fingers to Mr. Jacob Zuma himself, and looking at everything that has been presented by the commission, do you think we are likely to really have Mr. Jacob Zuma pinned down with all the allegations that are pointing to him, or with all the allegations that are now, looking all angles to him?
I think here's one of the things that most people ignore when they look at the chain of command in terms of how instructions for the state capture were given.
Okay.
Jacob Zuma might not have officially given instructions, but his associates, allies, and acquaintances might have utilized his name, and utilize his name with his knowledge in facilitating certain scrupulous activities within government and government institutions. The fact that there's a blurry line between the state and the party makes it very difficult for individuals within the state not to follow unlawful instructions. Because the party, which is the governing party, the ANC, is given so much power to hold people accountable and to also use its influence in directing actions within the state. I think that blurry line that exists between the party and the state has made it impossible for instructions to be given, and not directly within government channels, but with outside government channels by individuals using Jacob Zuma's name. And we might find that actually Jacob Zuma had given some instructions directly. Remember that all of this, most of the allegations indicate that Jacob Zuma might not have been present in meetings that these individuals had, but his son was. And with his very close friends, the Gupta brothers. Remember, Jacob Zuma has, on numerous public platforms, indicated that, yes, indeed, the Gupta brothers are my friend. When the state capture allegations surfaced, instead of Jacob Zuma condemning the allegations and claims made by other people and say to the Gupta brothers, there's several allegations surfacing. Could you please, if indeed it's the case that you're using my name to advance this thing, desist from such? No, Jacob Zuma never did that. Instead, Jacob Zuma went on the offensive and defended his relationship with the Guptas. In anyone's right mind, who's worried about the perception society has against the kind of relationship he has with people, who are accused of such? Jacob Zuma should have distanced himself from the Guptas, but he never did. And that on its own creates a worrying perception.
Yes. That's very mouthful. Taking from the last testimony that was directly linking or pointing to Mr. Jacob Zuma by Mr. THUSI. Mr. THUSI was saying that his actions were motivated by the fear of how they would call him Ubaba. It's so surprising to notice that even people who had the right, such as Mr. THUSI, to deny or to refuse to take any actions, but further went on to take actions, all in fear of Mr. Ubaba, the former president, Jacob Zuma. What's your take on that again?
Thank you for raising that kind of question, GUGU, because I think we need to highlight that some individuals, who are entrusted with responsibilities are likely to go that route to say, no, the instructions were from Jacob Zuma or his associates, in an attempt to escape accountability. It's easier to say that because at the end of the day, as the former chairperson of the board, Dr. Zwala THUSI had a very huge responsibility to ensure that governance is conducted in a proper manner at ESCOM. It's very easy for him to say that, no, but Jacob Zuma or his associates gave such and such an instruction. The Gupta brothers usually dropped the president's name in whatever it is that they wanted. I think that is Dr. THUSI avoiding accountability. What did he have to lose? Why couldn't he say, no, as a chairperson of the board, I'm not allowed, or one of my duties is to ensure that the very same thing that you're asking from me should not be done. Why couldn't he say that? It will go to show that, you know what, the likes of Dr. THUSI actually had self-interest. They wanted to preserve themselves at the expense of collapsing state institutions. So they cannot avoid accountability. They have to be held accountable. I mean, taking an unlawful instruction does not necessarily exonerate the implementer from accountability.
No, true. Well, Mr. Matlala, thank you so much for such an insightful knowledge you've shared with us. And we do hope to have you here on Galaxy Prime once again. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Have a good evening, GUGU. Thanks for having me.
Viewers at home, as you have heard, that was our political analyst, Mr. Matlala. He shared his insightful views on the Zondo Commission matter. We are going to take a short break, but after the break, my co-pilot, AUDREY CHIMWANDA will be here joining. AUDREY CHIMWANDA will be joining us here in studio after the break. Please do stay tuned.
Violence and sexual abuse against children has become a major social challenge during the COVID-19 lockdown. We appeal to adults, parents and caregivers to be kind towards children during this lockdown and beyond. Give children the space they need to engage with their reading and learning activities. Do not hit them. Do not yell at them. They are equally frustrated. We urge you to listen, support and help the children to survive the COVID-19 lockdown. Report immediately any incident of sexual abuse. The Department of Basic Education. Every child is a national asset.
Feel the heat.
I love Adam Selman.
The girls are really thin. I think it looks very glamorous from the outside.
The life of a model in New York City.
There is such cool prints. So many.
You know, I'm buying this.
Look at me and all the selfie sort of thing. Honestly, I didn't really know that was actually a job. It just didn't occur to me.
Congratulations.
Feel the excitement. Feel the heat with StarSat. Feel the heat.
Chicken portions are an easy way to feed a crowd.
I've just started to incorporate all my ingredients.
We're gonna put this inside of a hot cast iron skillet.
You want to really fill up on great protein.
It's now time to sample the chef's dish. Look at this.
I know.
Like that?
Feel the excitement.
The chicken is on the spot.
Feel the heat with StarSat. Feel the heat. Feel the excitement. Feel the heat with StarSat. Challenge your ordinary. Experience the extraordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Now, I believe that my peace is my most valuable asset.
Absolutely beautiful!
This is exactly what I was looking for!
DJ Khaled!
It is a day to celebrate.
We're ready for action.
I like it when it's nice and soft. Yeah, that is nice.
How was it like growing up in Nigeria? Yes, sir, you know what it is.
Feeling is there that, you know, you're doing something special.
Stop being so dramatic, Mira.
You should just be what you want to be.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat. Feel the heat.
Hold on. To make it through this journey alive, you're gonna need someone to teach you the ninja way.
Don't just stand there, kill someone!
excitement. Feel the heat.
A very warm welcome back to Galaxy Prime. Thank you for staying with us. A huge thank you to my colleague GUGU THUSI, who took you through our first interview there with Mr. Matlala, talking about the current affairs in South Africa today. I'm AUDREY CHIMWANDA. It's just gone after 6 p.m. Central African time. This is still Galaxy Prime. Let's take a look at other top stories now. Some 6 months after South Africa entered level 5 restrictions, we've reached the other end of the lockdown pyramid. Level 1 is the lightest form of these regulations, but make no mistake, there's still plenty of rules to follow. Now, here's a list of the activities that still remain banned at level 1. Night vigils are still forbidden outright. A total of 35 land borders are still closed. This despite relaxed restrictions on international travel. Nightclubs will remain shut while curfew is in place, and initiation schools are still closed, but the government remains in talks with the traditional leaders. Passenger ships for international leisure cannot operate at level 1, and spectators at sports events are still banned for the foreseeable future. Now, international sports, the fixtures in South Africa also remain off limits, and travel between the hours of midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning is not allowed. Buying alcohol between 5 p.m. on a Friday and 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday will not be possible. This as liquor stores are set to remain shut on the weekend during level 1. Now, these are up-to-date international travel regulations which will take effect from the 1st of October. On Saturday, the 19th of September, the Department of Basic Education issued a statement urging all teachers who were granted permission to work from home to return to school today. This comes after President Cyril Ramaphosa announced a nationwide move to level 1 lockdown due to decreasing COVID-19 infection rates, the deaths and hospital admissions. According to the department, more than 22,500 teachers were granted approval for concession countrywide in terms of Collective Agreement 1 of 2020. The collective agreement was aimed at providing a concession for educators that are employed in terms of the Act number 78 of 1998 of Employment of Educators Act, who are affected due to the risk factors of severe COVID-19. The Department of Basic Education says the affected teachers will therefore have to report for duty with effect from today. If, however, some individuals are still not well enough, they are advised to follow the normal sick leave protocols. Questions, however, have arisen as to what happens then to the substitute teachers. Well, the Department of Basic Education says the Provincial Education Department should honour the contractual obligations that were entered into between the substitute educators and the provincial department, and that schools should also consider ways in which they could best utilise the substitute educators with whom they have contractual obligations. The African National Congress in Gauteng has been meeting to discuss the contentious PIC report. It involves presidency spokesperson Kusela Diko and the health MEC Bandile Masuku. The party's provincial executive committee has been meeting since the weekend to consider a report into the 125 million rand PPE tender involving Gauteng health MEC Bandile Masuku, his wife Loyiso Masuku, and presidential spokesperson Kusela Diko, as well as her husband Amabaca chief Thandisizwe Diko. According to reports, the PEC could not conclude its meeting on the weekend, but they reconvened today as more members want to weigh in on the report. The party's Provincial Integrity Commission's report was set to be released. However, the report had initially found that Diko had not broken the law, but lacked the expected oversight, essentially clearing her of any wrongdoing in the matter. The MEC maintains its innocence in the whole debacle, and they want to be told what they did wrong. According to the Special Investigating Unit, more than 600 companies are being probed for receiving contracts that are totaling more than 5 billion rand during the COVID-19 pandemic. Nehawu are currently striking outside of the union buildings in Pretoria. This after Ramaphosa failed to get back to them regarding a list of demands. Nehawu, among other demands, want an 8% wage hike for the frontline workers that are fighting COVID-19 and better working conditions. And members currently gathering at the union buildings have insisted that they are not going anywhere until their urgent, reasonable demands are met. In a statement released on Sunday, the Nehawu General Secretary Zola Sapeta said that time and time again the presidency has failed to respond to their requests. On the 11th of September, Nehawu wrote to the office of the president to remind him about the ultimatum which had expired and informing him about their intention to withdraw labor power. Nehawu believes that while their demands are not met, health workers and their lives are being put in danger every time that they enter their places of work. The National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union will once again engage in protest action in a bid to get the attention of President Cyril Ramaphosa. In the meantime, Minister in the Presidency, Jackson Mthembu, has said that President Cyril Ramaphosa is just simply too sick to meet with the leadership of Nehawu today. Let's take a listen into what he had to say.
And the President spoke to the President of Nehawu. An arrangement has now been made for the President to meet with the leadership of Nehawu this week. I'm told that Wednesday is being negotiated sometime on Wednesday. So that's where we are now. And they will then raise these issues that needs the attention of the head of state. I'm too small to deal with the issues that have been raised by our trade union. So the only person who can deal with these issues properly and listen to what Nehawu has to say is our president, and he's available to meet with them on Wednesday because today he's really sick. He's in blank.
In other news now, the chairperson of the State Capture Inquiry, Raymond Zondo, says that the former president, Jacob Zuma, will be expected to appear between the 16th and the 20th of November 2020. Zuma was set to appear before the inquiry on Monday, the 21st of September 2020, but he opted to not show up, saying he needed to focus on his arms deal corruption case. Zuma had been set to take to the stand and explain his roles in dealings which also involve the controversial Gupta family. Zondo, who some have accused of being too soft on witnesses, announced that the president would then be required to make a return to the hot seat and testify between the 16th and the 20th of November. The former president was initially set to appear back in January 2020. However, he was reportedly too ill. This time, it appears the former president would have no other option but to appear. As Zondo has said, the dates are fixed and they need to be honored. The Deputy Chief Justice further said 9 October 2020 has been set to make a decision on the subpoena and that the application brought by the inquiry's legal team for the issuing of the summons against Zuma will proceed with or without his legal representatives. He further said Zuma's lawyers had been told that the option to also appear via a virtual conference was on the table, but that arrangements had to be made accordingly. Let's take a listen into what Chief Justice Zondo had to say.
I decided, after receiving, the commission had received his response through his attorneys, to fix the date for the hearing of the commission legal team's application for an order authorizing the issuing of a summons against Mr. Zuma. I have determined that that date will be the 9th of October at 9 a.m. He and his lawyers have been informed that unless I'm satisfied on that date that there are good grounds for them not to appear, if they do not appear, that application will proceed without them. They have been informed that should they wish to make use of a virtual appearance before the commission, and if they inform the commission timelessly, arrangements will be made for them to appear virtually before the commission. But that application will proceed with or without them, unless I'm satisfied that there are good grounds for them not to be here. I have also determined new dates for Mr. Zuma's appearance before the Commission, since becoming aware of the letter from his attorneys. Those dates are 16 to 20 November 2020. Those are the dates that I have determined. I know that in their letter, his attorneys said dates should be negotiated with him or with them. No dates will be negotiated with them or with
Free State Premier has told parents in the province to keep their guard high. This after a suspected attempt to abduct a child in Bloemfontein. This was reported last week. This comes just days after the infamous foiled kidnapping in Florida, Gauteng, that made international headlines. In a statement shared early on Monday, Ndobela claimed that criminals have set their eyes on the children of Bloemfontein and that the recent school abduction attempt has prompted the authorities in the Free State to double down on their guidance and advising parents and concerned residents that the Premier will engage the MEC, that's Sam Mashinini, and the SAPS to prevent abductions before they happen. Ndobela is encouraging parents to accompany their children to school, and the parents are being asked to keep a keen eye on children at all times, particularly in crowded areas. The Free State government has also made a call to young people to travel in groups. Ndobela's rhetoric certainly reflects the gravity of the situation that is facing South Africa at the moment. The threat of child abduction and human trafficking has sparked a major panic amongst the populace, and the Premier has made it clear that those that are caught trying to steal children will be dealt with harshly. The Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamola, has said the department has been wanting to address the issue of whether an admission of guilt fine will attract a criminal record. Paying an admission of guilt fine could get your criminal record expunged. The Minister of Justice and Correctional Services explained the circumstances during a written reply to African Christian Democratic Party Member of Parliament's question in Parliament. Swart is essentially asked Lamola whether he intends to introduce legislation in Parliament to amend the Criminal Procedure Act, the Act 51 of 1977, and any other relevant legislation to ensure that those who pay an admission of guilt fine for trivial offences do not incur a criminal record. Swart also asked by what date that he envisages the legislation to be tabled. Lamola says the payment of admission of guilt fines is an important mechanism of the criminal justice system, as it affords an opportunity to admit guilt for less serious offences, and it relieves the burden on the overloaded criminal justice system. Lamola says the issue of whether or not an admission of guilt will attract a criminal record is a matter which the department has been wanting to address, and it will form part of the Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill. Now, to note, it's very important to note that not all admission of guilt fines will attract a criminal record. However, for example, Section 341 of the CPA provides for the compounding of certain minor offences and for the payment of a fine in respect of the minor offences. The amendment bill has been delayed, however, due to COVID-19 pandemic. Now let's take a look at Africa Wrap. One of our top stories from the continent. The ramifications of Mali's coup continues to ripple through the region, not least in Timbuktu, which has been hit especially hard by sanctions imposed by the Economic Community of West African States. And meanwhile, South Africa prepares to open its borders as the coronavirus restrictions ease. And Sudan reels following its worst flooding on record. Here's a report from Africa.
Mali may be finding its feet in the wake of the mid-August coup d'etat, but in Timbuktu, in the north of the country, it's business as usual for the Malian army. Here, in the conflict-ridden northern and central regions of the country, security is still the primary concern. But residents are also now struggling against sanctions and border closures imposed by the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, hampering an economy that relies on trade with neighbouring countries.
It creates a lot of problems for us because everything comes from outside. We don't have a factory here, we don't have anything, so when the borders close, it's a big problem for us. Even the 2 days of the coup were really hard.
Since first breaking out in the north in 2012, Mali has struggled to contain a brutal Islamic insurgency, which has since spread to the centre of the country as well as Burkina Faso and Niger. Thousands of civilians and soldiers have died in the conflict, which has severely impacted the economy of this already impoverished West African state. The recent political upheaval has shown few signs of changing the situation on the ground here. 20 Malian soldiers have been killed since the coup. The junta has vowed to hold fresh elections and has appointed officials to lead the fragile country through the transition.
Now it is time to progress quickly. That is why we have already started to set up the college that will quickly put in place the organs of the transition. No time was wasted. It was necessary to go through these steps. Now that these stages are complete, we will continue the rest, install the transitional bodies, and start working normally.
Installer les organes de transition et commencer à travailler normalement.
Ghana's president and the head of ECOWAS, Nana Akufo-Addo, underscored the need to establish a civilian government at the head of Mali, after talks with the military junta in the Ghanaian capital, Accra.
There must be a government in place in Bamako that will be able to deal with the great challenges facing the Malian people and the Malian nation. As soon as it is possible, and that's settled, the situation will start to normalize.
To South Africa now, where President Cyril Ramaphosa said borders will reopen to most countries in October, allowing international travel once more as the country further eases its anti-coronavirus measures. However, people entering the country will only be able to arrive via 3 airports: Johannesburg, Durban and Cape Town.
On arrival, travellers will need to present a negative COVID-19 test results not older than 72 hours from the time of departure, from whence they will have come from.
South Africa has been hard hit by the pandemic relative to many other African countries. With almost 16,000 deaths and 650,000 infections recorded to date, it accounts for around half of the total number of cases detected on the continent. Ramaphosa said the country had succeeded in overcoming the worst of its outbreak. He noted that the number of new cases had dropped from an average of 12,000 a day at the height of the storm in July to fewer than 2,000. Tempers have risen in Nigeria after a coronavirus budget crunch forced the oil-rich nation to dump its petrol subsidy system. The cost of fuel at the pump has risen by around 15%, hitting a record high of $1.55 per US gallon. Authorities announced an end to the subsidies earlier this year, as falling oil prices robbed Nigeria of a major chunk of its revenues. Making matters worse, the government has almost doubled the cost of electricity. For Nigerians, the impact of these changes are huge.
I don't think this is the right time, having the fact that we are still in lockdown. Families are trying to survive. Companies are reducing their staff. So I don't think this is the right time.
Ivorian former rebel leader and ex-Prime Minister Guillaume Soro is encouraging people to mobilise against President Alassane Ouattara's possible third term in office. Despite the Constitutional Council rejecting Soro's own presidential candidacy, he's declared his intention to run in the October 31st vote. He's also claimed that the poll is simply a scheme to enshrine the 78-year-old Ouattara as president.
The fight we are now going to wage must put an end to life presidencies and constitutional coups.
Violent protests against Ouattara's candidacy left around 15 people dead last month, and demonstrations broke out in several cities this week despite a ban on rallies. Tensions in the West African state, a major producer of coffee and cacao, have revived traumatic memories of a months-long civil war that erupted after the 2010 elections, claiming more than 3,000 lives. Sudanese authorities arrested 41 people for possessing a large amount of explosive material, including a compound similar to that which caused a catastrophic explosion in Beirut last month. Intelligence gathered since August on the movements of the terrorists group led to the arrests.
These dangerous materials are now kept in a safe place with the Rapid Support Forces. Forensic evidence analysis has been carried out and specific results have been reached, stating that these explosives are dangerous and could destroy the entire capital.
Meanwhile, Sudan is also battling to contain flooding across the country after the waters of the Nile reached record levels, destroying and damaging tens of thousands of homes. More than 100 people have been killed and 50 others injured. Heavy rain usually falls in Sudan from June to October, and the country faces severe flooding every year. But this year, officials said they had recorded the highest waters on the Blue Nile since records began over a century ago. And finally, the Senegalese former head of athletics world governing body, Lamine Diack, has been found guilty by a French court of corruption by covering up Russian doping cases. He's been sentenced to 4 years in prison, 2 of which are suspended. The 87-year-old, who led the International Association of Athletics Federations for 16 years, was also fined €500,000.
And let's take a look at international stories now. We go to the United States, where a package containing ricin poison that was addressed to U.S. President Donald Trump was delivered to the White House. It was intercepted, and the letter was discovered at a screening that happened before the president had actually managed to get a hold of the letter. They said that a substance was found inside of the envelope. It was identified as a poison that is found naturally in castor beans. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Secret Service are investigating where the package came from and whether others have been sent through the U.S. postal system. One official told reporters that investigators believe the package was sent from Canada. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police said on Saturday that it was working with the FBI to investigate the suspicious letter sent to the White House. A woman who was suspected of sending an envelope containing the poison has since been arrested, as it was addressed to the White House, and they say that she was arrested at the New York-Canada border. Now, ricin is produced by processing castor beans. It is a lethal substance that, if swallowed, inhaled or injected, can cause nausea, vomiting, internal bleeding, and ultimately organ failure. There is no known antidote that exists for the poison. If a person is exposed to ricin, death can take place within 36 to 72 hours, this depending on the dose received. Now, Twitter has apologized for a racist image cropping algorithm after users discovered the feature was automatically focusing on white faces over black ones. The company says it had tested the service for bias before it started using it, but now it accepts that it didn't go far enough. Twitter has long automatically cropped images to prevent them from taking up too much space and on the main feed, and then this to allow multiple pictures to be shown in the same tweet. The company uses several algorithmic tools to try to focus on the most important parts of the picture. They're trying to ensure that the faces and the text remain in the cropped part of the image. But users began to spot flaws in the feature over the weekend. Now, the first to highlight the issue was PhD student Colin Madland, who discovered the issue while highlighting a different racial bias in the video conference software Zoom. When Madland, who is white, posted an image of himself and a black colleague who had been erased from a Zoom call after its algorithm failed to recognize his face, Twitter automatically cropped the image to only show Madland. Now, we saw this happening as well when former President Barack Obama also was put in a picture with another white man on Twitter, and automatically Twitter chose the white face. We'll take a very short break here on Galaxy Prime. Do stay with us We'll be back with more news and updates. Tell us, what has been your experience as you're using Twitter? As a lot of people seem to be having the same problem. Tweet us at GUN_TV. Our Facebook page is also open for you to use.
Violence and sexual abuse against children has become a major social challenge during the COVID-19 lockdown. We appeal to adults, parents and caregivers to be kind towards children during this lockdown and beyond. Give children the space they need to engage with their reading and learning activities. Do not hit them. Do not yell at them. They are equally frustrated. We urge you to listen, support and help the children to survive the COVID-19 lockdown. Report immediately any incident of sexual abuse. The Department of Basic Education. Every child is a national asset.
Feel the heat.
I love Adam Selman.
The girls are really thin. I think it looks very glamorous from the outside.
The life of a model in New York City.
There is such cool prints. So many.
You know, I'm buying this.
Look at me and all the selfie sort of thing. Honestly, I didn't really know that was actually a job. It just didn't occur to me.
Congratulations.
Feel the excitement. Feel the heat with StarSat. Feel the heat.
Chicken portions are an easy way to feed a crowd.
I've just started to incorporate all my ingredients.
We're going to put this inside of a hot cast iron skillet.
You want to really fill up on great protein.
It's now time to sample the chef's dish. Look at this.
I know.
Like that.
Feel the excitement.
The chicken is on the spot.
Feel the heat with StarSat. Feel the heat. Feel the excitement. Feel the heat.